The entire staff of Trinity Presbyterian Church joins me in wishing all of you a happy and safe Thanksgiving. At our staff meeting last week, I invited members of the staff to express something for which they are especially grateful. Of course, several expressed gratitude for the health of family and friends, but I was struck by the responses of several of our staff who expressed gratitude in particular to you, the congregation. I'm very grateful that I have a roof over my head, said one of our colleagues. And another said, I am grateful that I still have a job. And another echoed that sentiment, saying, I'm so grateful that I have meaningful work to do here in this very difficult time. One of the reasons Trinity Presbyterian Church and the Trinity Preschool were able to keep all staff, including our hourly contract workers, employed in the early months of the pandemic was because we, like so many other churches in our presbytery and churches across this country, applied for and received the government's PPP loan that was designed to help nonprofits and small businesses keep all of their people employed in the midst of great uncertainty so our economy could keep rolling and so that individuals were not in undue hardship. Trinity kept its application modest for this loan. We received just over $430,000 for both the church and the preschool. At the November session meeting this past week, the Finance Committee noted that this church and the preschool had fully used the proceeds as they were intended. And so they recommended that we apply now for forgiveness of the loan. And the session approved their motion. We should know sometime in 2021 whether we will indeed have the loan forgiven. At that same November session meeting, the session also voted to allow us to return to in-person worship in a limited way for 50 people or less here in the sanctuary on Sundays for the 11 a.m. worship service only. This is scheduled to begin December the 6th, but we are continuing to monitor the virus levels in our community, so stay tuned. Those wishing to attend in person will need to register the week before the worship service and wait to receive confirmation of your registration. Masks and social distancing will be required for everyone 4 years of age and older. Of course, there will still be no singing in the church. More protocols and details will be communicated the week after Thanksgiving. Of course, this service will also continue to be live streamed because so many more are likely to prefer to worship with us online. This Thanksgiving is likely to be unusual for almost all of us. But in doing some research about Thanksgiving, what one writer has called our nation's secular Sabbath, I discovered something that I think is worth pondering. While it was our first president, George Washington, who asked the nation to set aside a day of national Thanksgiving as early as 1789, and then once more a few years later in his tenure, it was really Abraham Lincoln who set aside this national day of Thanksgiving in November and made it what it has become today. Lincoln did so in the midst of his own wildly tumultuous year, and a wildly tumultuous year for our nation. The year was 1863, a year filled with political and military and moral battles. On January the 1st of 1863, Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation went into effect, declaring the freedom of slaves in Confederate territory. In the spring and summer of 1863, there were the battles of Gettysburg and Vicksburg with their steep human death tolls. And by August 1863, Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass met in the White House together, an encounter some credit with sealing Lincoln's support of the 13th Amendment that abolished slavery. And it was on November the 19th of that year, just 7 days before the Thanksgiving Day occurred that he established, that Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address. Was there ever a time when a nation needed more to have such a Sabbath, a day to find gratitude and grace in the midst of such struggle and upheaval and devastation? Well, we may find this Thanksgiving that the absence of bustling family gatherings and tables piled high with food and conversation and laughter that is normally enjoyed gives us a time for such a needed Sabbath. This Thanksgiving may be a little bit more like the one in 1863. In the midst of so much unsettledness and disquiet, may it be for us, as it was for those in another time, a day to clarify our deeper purpose, a deeper purpose for our own lives, for us as a church, and yes, for us as a nation. Lincoln concluded his Thanksgiving proclamation in 1863, asking that his countrymen and women, quote, fervently implore in the interposition of the Almighty hand to heal the wounds of the nation and restore it as soon as may be consistent with the divine purposes to the full enjoyment of peace, harmony, tranquility, and union. Amen. Go up. That's a pretty good prayer for us this Thanksgiving too, that God, in accord with the divine purposes, will grant us the full enjoyment in the midst of this global pandemic and the absence of some of those we love the most, peace, harmony, tranquility, and union in our own time. A happy Thanksgiving to you all, and God bless.